All right, I'm going to bring the meeting to order. Could everyone please salute the flag, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So good evening and welcome to the August meeting of the Revere Board of Health. My name is Dr. Drew Bunker. I'm the chair of the Revere Board of Health. Joining me for tonight's meeting is board member Kathleen Savage to my left and board member Viviana Catano to my right. Also in attendance for tonight's meeting are City of Revere staff, Lauren Buck, Director of Public Health, Michael Wells, who's Director of Municipal Inspections and Health Agent, and Paula Sepulveda, who's the Board of Health Clerk. So first, every meeting we review and approve the minutes from the meeting from the months past. So the July 25th meeting, I'm going to ask the other board members if they approve those minutes.
I approve the minutes.
I approve of the minutes.
Great, so do I. All right. Next is going to be the Public Health Communicable Monthly Report, and that's going to be from Lauren Buck.
Thanks, Dr. Bunker. For August 2024, for our Communicable Monthly Report, our COVID numbers were slightly higher than expected, 106 confirmed cases and 28 probable cases. This is just another reminder that we're coming up on flu and COVID immunization season, and a reminder that everyone should start to be thinking about getting COVID and flu shots. We also had a suspect case of West Nile infection in Revere, which brings me to my public health update. On August 23rd, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health announced that due to ongoing evidence of mosquitoes carrying West Nile virus, 8 municipalities are now considered to be at high risk for the virus. We are not one of those municipalities. However, we have a moderate risk in Revere. And I just want to remind everyone some safety tips about helping prevent West Nile infection. While most people do not get severely ill from West Nile, it is still important to take it seriously. People at greatest risk for severe disease from West Nile infection include those over 60 years of age, people with certain medical conditions such as cancer, diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, and people who have received organ transplants. Just some reminders that in addition to recommending that people use mosquito repellent with an EPA-registered active ingredient and clothing to reduce exposed skin, you can also check window screens to be sure that they don't have any holes and empty any containers that accumulate water around your yard. And finally, just protect your animals, especially after heavy rains. It's important to make sure you're protecting your animals from mosquito bites. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Next is going to be the Inspectional Services Monthly Report with Michael Wells.
Thank you, Dr. Bunker. The Inspectional Services Monthly Report is as follows. Interior Housing Division, we performed 167 Certificate of Fitness inspections, 20 Certificate of Fitness re-inspections. We have 13 interior complaints received and in process. We have 3 inspections of interior complaints, 4 interior complaint re-inspections, and 1 pool spa inspection. On the Food Inspection Division, we performed 48 routine inspections, 10 re-inspections, 3 complaint inspections, 1 pre-opening inspection, and 1 temporary food license inspection. On the Exterior Sanitation Division, we issued 123 violations for accumulation of litter, trash, and debris, 3 violations for carts out at improper times, 49 violations for overflowing dumpsters, 483 violations for improper placement of garbage, trash, and bulky items, 46 violations for improper storage of garbage and trash, 2 violations for junk heaps, dumps, and automobile graveyards, 1 violation for multiple unregistered vehicles, 4 violations for rodent harborage, and 68 violations for unclean, unsanitary land, which also includes overgrowth. 2 violations for unpermitted dumpsters and compactors, and 1 violation for working without permits.
Great, thank you, Michael. Okay, so next part of this meeting is going to be the condemnation proceedings regarding 364 Ocean Avenue. I'm first going to ask the City of Revere outside counsel to come up and speak.
Good evening, Chairman Dr. Bunker and members of the board. I'm Paul Tellier of the firm D'Ambrosio LLP, and I'm here this evening with my partner, Josh Lovell, and we represent the City of Revere Inspectional Services Department by and through its Director of Municipal Inspections and Health Agent, Michael Wells. We are here tonight for one reason and one reason only. Water's Edge Limited Partnership and Evelyn Carabetta have utterly failed to satisfy the minimum standards to protect the health, safety, and well-being of their tenants as required under the state sanitary code. Tonight, you are going to hear about Water's Edge's egregious history and the repeated code violations at 364 Ocean Avenue. Over the past 20 months, Water's Edge has schemed and refused to perform any remediation of its deteriorating life safety systems. As a result, their tenants are living in a moldy, rat-infested high-rise building with no fire alarm and fire sprinklers that do not work. Water's Edge's finances have deteriorated. Water's Edge has not paid its contractors who are needed to make these repairs. Water's Edge has not paid the Revere Fire Department, which is hired to provide a fire watch. Water's Edge is delinquent on its taxes. Water's Edge is delinquent and has not paid its mortgage for the property. Unfortunately, you have no choice tonight. Condemnation is necessary to protect the health and safety of the tenants and the community at large. Please understand that the city did not bring this petition lightly. It was only after careful consideration and Water's Edge's blatant disregard for the law and their tenants. Let us take a step back and let me tell you about the history of this building. The property contains a 13-story high-rise building with 91 units. Currently, it is our understanding that there are 41 occupied residential units, a hair salon on the first floor, and that tenants are living throughout the building, including the topmost level, the 13th floor. The property has a long and sordid history of worsening code violations dating back to 2017. In fact, the property currently has non-functioning life safety systems in clear violation of the state sanitary code, the building code, and the fire code. On August 2nd, 2017, more than 7 years ago, the city issued a comprehensive order to correct, citing numerous life safety and sanitary code violations at the property. The nature of these violations mirror much of what remains ongoing at the property today. Numerous violations relating to the fire suppression and sprinkler system. Numerous violations relating to the fire alarm system. Failures to properly maintain emergency access keys, fire extinguishers, and smoke exhaust systems. Numerous violations relating to the fire pump system, and numerous other violations demonstrating a general failure by Water's Edge to properly care for and maintain the property. Since 2017, ongoing enforcement efforts have resulted in Water's Edge making only minimal repairs. Unfortunately, Water's Edge's reckless failures have allowed the problems at the property to deteriorate and threaten the safety of the building's tenants and the public. Let's jump ahead to November of 2022. On November 18th, 2022, following reports of heavy water damage to the 7th floor laundry room at the property, the Revere Fire Department responded and found that the fire alarm panel was no longer functional. The fire department ordered Water's Edge to immediately hire a fire watch to be placed at the building at Water's Edge's expense. It should be noted that the fire department did not have to allow for the option for the bill of a fire watch, but in an effort to work with Water's Edge and prevent the building from being condemned, the city allowed for this temporary fix while Water's Edge remediated the building. On December 21st, 2022, the city issued a new order to correct, again citing numerous life safety and sanitary code violations at the property. The following conditions amount to serious public health and safety violations. First, the fire alarm panel, which dated back to 2017, was inoperable and required a complete replacement. In fact, neither the manufacturer of the fire alarm panel, nor Water's Edge's fire alarm contractor, nor Water's Edge's fire protection engineer would sign off on the operability of the fire alarm panel. The fire pump is not functioning properly and needs to be replaced. Why is this important? This is important because the condition of the fire pump prevents adequate water pressure from reaching above the 6th floor, which means that fires cannot effectively be put out. And as I previously stated, tenants still reside as high as the 13th floor. The fire doors had not been maintained, and this has caused them to have diminished or voided fire ratings. Numerous holes were observed in the fire-rated sheetrock throughout the building. Numerous sprinkler heads throughout the building are corroded and have been rendered ineffective. In the common garage, there are many areas where the steel framing appear exposed, the fireproofing is missing, and portions of the walls and ceilings are found to be cracked, deteriorating, and not properly installed. Rodent problems continued dating back to 2017. Neither the wooden decks nor the wooden railings were replaced or updated with the appropriately fire-rated materials. Further, both the decks and railings exhibited structural damage and signs of having previously caught fire. Several areas throughout the building, including the hallway, ceiling tiles, and portions of the staircase, showed signs of apparent mold growth. At the time of the inspection, the trash room was overflowing to the point that the trash chute was being blocked. This issue contributes to the spread of disease and can also be a fire hazard. Water's Edge did not appeal either the 2017 or the 2022 order to correct, and therefore is legally bound by the unchallenged and unappealed orders. The only aspect of the repair work that Water's Edge challenged was it applied to repair the fire pump rather than replace it. This appeal, however, was denied on August 24th, 2023 by the Fire Prevention Regulations Appeals Board, a state board, not the city of Revere. Moreover, this at-risk building has been further impacted by 3 fires in April of 2023, to which the fire department responded. Fortunately, those times, no one was harmed. It needs to be acknowledged that condemnation was not the city's first form of enforcement after the 2022 order to correct. Following that order, Water's Edge projected the appearance of progress. Water's Edge retained an engineering firm and consultants to complete repair work at the property. The city was familiar at that time with the firm and the consultants because of ongoing involvement in remediation work at 370 Ocean Ave, a sister building also owned by Water's Edge. These contractors were preparing plans to submit for the property. Water's Edge retained the fire department as the fire watch and was paying them. The city was closely monitoring the situation. However, by the spring of 2023, any false appearance of progress ended. Water's Edge's attorney confirmed that the retained firm and its consultants were stepping away from the project at 364 Ocean Ave. By this point, Water's Edge had failed to obtain any permits to begin the remediation work at the property. On November 8th, 2023, the city responded and filed a petition in the Housing Court to enforce the state sanitary code and sought a receiver for the property. At a hearing on January 12th, 2024, Water's Edge stated that it hired a new contractor, Christopher Tenaglia, in a limited capacity to take over the remediation work. The limited contract, which was supposedly for a high-rise building, was for no more than 16 hours per week. The court was appalled and responded to this insufficient scope of work by immediately consolidating the court cases for 364 and 370 Ocean Ave and moving straight into scheduling a receivership hearing. At this time, the city had serious concerns as to Mr. Tenaglia and Mr. Matthew O'Boyle and their companies as the new contractors retained to perform the work at 364 Ocean Ave. They had questioned whether their experience matched the remediation work required for a high-rise building because a majority of their experience was in marijuana dispensaries. Consequently, these gentlemen and their companies submitted an incomplete, insufficient permit application for a comprehensive building permit. The city provided comments on that application, but to no surprise, no responses were received thereafter. Water's Edge's new contractors stopped communicating with the city. The city then became aware in July of 2024, just last month, that Mr. Tenaglia and Mr. O'Boyle's companies had filed liens against the property. The city also learned a little before that, upon information and belief, that Water's Edge had not made the sufficient mortgage payments on the property. The city also became aware that Water's Edge had stopped paying the fire watch at the property. It was clear that Water's Edge's efforts were a complete charade. All remediation efforts had completely crumbled. On July 17th, 2024, Deputy Chief Paul Cheever re-inspected the property and confirmed that all of the listed violations set forth in the 2022 order were still in existence and in fact worsened. Now you've heard the facts. Let's turn to the standard. Condemnation today is justified because, as you have heard, there are numerous state sanitary code violations at the property. Those violations constitute conditions which make the building unfit for human habitation, and the conditions threaten the harm to the tenants and the public. It is indisputable that state sanitary code violations are present at the property. The list of violations are egregious. These violations constitute conditions that make the building unfit for human habitation. Water's Edge has made numerous misrepresentations and false promises over the years. They have schemed, they have deceived. Enough is enough. The conditions at the property harm and threaten the tenants and the public. It is unthinkable that in the current housing crisis, Water's Edge would allow this abominable situation to occur. The gravity of this matter must be acknowledged. In the event of a fire emergency, the building is not capable of alerting emergency services. This is a direct threat to the lives and safety of the tenants. Delayed fire response makes rescue services more dangerous for occupants and for first responders. Without a condemnation order, the board risks the lives and safety of occupants and the brave emergency responders who would enter a larger and more dangerous situation due to the building's failed alarm and insufficient sprinkler systems. Now listen, we understand the terrible situation that the tenants are in. The city is on the side of the tenants. We have always recognized the urgency of the situation, but we had hoped that Water's Edge would follow through with their promises so that tenants would not be displaced, so that their lives would not be endangered any further. We, however, cannot sit back any longer. We cannot delay the inevitable. We cannot risk the life and safety of these individuals. These tenants must be protected, and the state sanitary code agrees with us. It has been updated just a little over a year ago with an additional requirement that upon condemnation, the owner must provide the building's occupants with comparable, suitable housing. Water's Edge has recklessly placed these tenants' lives at risk, and it is now their legal duty to provide comparable, suitable housing. In conclusion, Water's Edge has no one to blame but itself for the uninhabitable conditions at the property. Tenants and the community deserve the protection of the law. History demonstrates that Water's Edge will not fix the property and will not pay to maintain the property. The board easily meets the requirements to make a finding under the state sanitary code and issue the requested orders based on the extensive evidence of violations at the property. The presence of any one of the referenced violations is enough to issue a finding that the property is unfit for human habitation. Taken together, these dangerous and life-threatening violations present a serious danger to the public health and the safety of the tenants, the neighboring properties, the emergency responders, and the Revere community at large. At this time, I'd like to incorporate our brief, which was submitted to the board and the parties on August 27th, 2024. I'd like to also incorporate the proposed order and findings which were submitted today. And as further evidence, I'd like to invite my partner, Josh Lovell, up here to introduce 3 witnesses that will provide statements as to the deplorable conditions at the building. Members of the board, thank you for your time this evening.
Yeah, we'll just wait to do their witnesses, the city's solicitors, and then you can come in after. Okay, we'll open it up. Thanks.
Thank you, members of the Board of Health. My name is Joshua Lovell on behalf of the petitioner. The city has 3 witnesses who have statements to provide to you about the property at issue. First is Michael Wells, the Director of Municipal Inspections and Health Agent for the City of Revere.
Thank you, Attorney Lavelle. My name is Michael Wells, and I'm the Director of Municipal Inspections as well as the Health Agent for the City of Revere. In my capacity as Director and Health Agent, it's my job to enforce the state sanitary code. I also work closely with building and fire officials and collaborate with these departments on a daily basis to share information and make public health and safety decisions in our city. Going back to November of 2022, agents from my department as well as the fire department went into 364 Ocean Ave for an inspection after a complaint that the fire alarm panel was not functioning properly. As it turned out, the panel was so defective that the Revere Fire Department had to order 24/7 fire watch. It's my understanding that it is essentially because the alarm system was completely inoperable. They have to be firefighters in the building patrolling the floors that they can be the ones to provide notice to the fire department and tenants in the event of a fire. The fire detail has been in effect ever since and still remains today. After the inspection, we issued an order to correct, which is a document under the state sanitary code that lists out all violations at a given property and acts as a blueprint for owners and contractors so that they can make necessary repairs. I'm going to highlight for you some of the most serious issues recorded in the order to correct from December 21st of '22. Many of these issues were still outstanding from a previous order that the city had issued in 2017. The fire alarm panel is old, operable, and in need of immediate replacement. Again, the panel was in such bad condition that the fire department ordered a 24/7 fire watch. The fire pump was not functioning properly when it was tested, and it showed evidence of leaks and rust. I learned that in the case of the fire, there would not be enough pressure to reach above the 6th floor. But even if the pump were functioning, many of the sprinkler heads we observed were corroded, making them ineffective as well. There was also structural damage to the building throughout. The fire-rated doors aren't being maintained. There are holes in the sheetrock and other walls around the building, with the fireproofing is missing in the garage. So even if the alarms worked at the pump, was functioning, the tenants would still be in danger because of these structural and fireproofing problems. We also saw evidence of mold on some of the hallway walls and ceilings, a rodent infestation, and overflow in the trash room, to the point that the trash chute was blocked. This was consistent with other complaints that we received about the property in the past, and I can tell you that these issues are legitimate health concerns with respect to the spread of disease to the residents. For reference, we're dealing with the same issues in another property next door owned by the same property owner, which still remains vacant today. The city received no appeal from the owners after the order to correct was issued. Since that time, we have been trying in vain to work with them to get the building back up into code. But unfortunately, there have been significant delays, no permits have been pulled, and the work has not gotten done. All of these violations are still outstanding today. They impact the life safety of the tenants, the neighboring buildings, and the firefighting patrolling 24/7. And they all rise to the level of making the property unfit for human habitation. As a result, I would recommend that the board tonight vote to condemn the property tonight. On a final note, I will add that the state sanitary code was recently changed last May to incorporate a section mandating that the owners of a building find housing for the tenants in the event of a condemnation. I would also recommend to the board tonight to enforce that provision as well. Thank you.
Thank you. For the second of the three witnesses for the city, I would introduce Deputy Chief Paul Cheever, Chief Fire Inspector for the Revere Fire Department.
Good evening, board members. My name is Deputy Chief Paul Cheever. I'm the Chief Fire Inspector for the City of Revere Fire Department. In my capacity, I do plan reviews for high-rises and any commercial development in the city, as well as inspect the existing housing, the existing housing stock that we have within the city. We're here tonight in regards to the property at 364 Ocean Ave. As described, this building is a 13-story high-rise with 91 units, currently 40 units occupied. I personally have been involved in this property dating back.
Do you mind just pull the microphone a little closer?
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
I've personally been involved in this property dating back to 2017, 2018, when the first order to correct was issued at this property. I informed the property owner back then in 2017 that they should plan and budget to replace the fire alarm system at that time, because it was a legacy system and was no longer supported by the manufacturer, and parts were no longer available from the manufacturer. However, what brought us here tonight is an emergency call on November 17th of 2022, when there was a report of a large amount of water that flooded down through the building and into the fire alarm control room and damaged the fire alarm control panel. On the following day, I investigated the conditions at the panel and was unable to contact anyone from management by phone, or no one from management was on site. The only person on site was the fire alarm contractor. I issued an order notice via email to the owner's representative of conditions found that were needed to be done going forward, including 1, updating and replacement of the fire alarm system, 2, the installation of a fire watch at the owner's expense for the safety of the residents. This is, similar to what just happened in 370 Ocean Ave a few months before. They lost their fire alarm system, we had a fire watch in there, and they had a major fire. That fire watch is the one who called that fire in. And then the third thing is access to the building on November 21st of 2022 for a full inspection of the building. On behalf of the city, on November 21st, 2022, representatives from the health, building, and fire departments conducted an inspection at the property. Based on this inspection, the state elevator was notified of the conditions found, and he ordered a licensed elevator mechanic to be in the building for emergency operation of the elevators, since there was no function from the fire alarm panel to give emergency recall. The elevators were not working properly. Several follow-up inspections were conducted by me to assess the progress of addressing the issues found in the building, and which concluded with an inspection on November 14th of 2022 with Commissioner Louis Carbonaro, the building commissioner. Based on the conditions found, an order to correct was issued on December 21st, 2022, citing the many violations at the property. The order to correct was issued from the Safe Housing Task Force, which includes representatives from fire, myself, ISD, Inspectional Services, and the Health Department. The order to correct for this property was a 34-page document citing numerous violations of the state sanitary code, including pictures of those violations. I'll go into some of the conditions found from the perspective of the fire department. The fire alarm control panel, as been discussed, was compromised from the water damage. The fire alarm panel could not be fully repaired since the system is from the 1980s and no longer supported by the manufacturer. Parts were not available from the manufacturer for over 20 years, from what I understand. Therefore, aftermarket parts were used to obtain and restore some functions of the panel. The property owner's own fire alarm contractor would not sign off on the panel after replacing the components with used parts. Additionally, a fire protection engineer was asked to review the conditions and would not sign off on the functionality of the panel as well. This left the property without assurance of a properly functioning fire alarm system should a fire or an emergency occur. Today, the system continuously cycles in and out of trouble. As stated earlier, due to the continued compromised conditions of the fire alarm system, a fire watch was ordered in the building until the system could be upgraded and is still in the building today. Over 12 months since the system has not been upgraded. Over 20 months since the system has not been upgraded. The fire pump and sprinkler system. Fire pump was found to be in extremely poor condition, including rust, leaks, improper and unsafe installation, and based on testing beyond the service life of the pump. The fire pump curve showed that the pump was deficient from the owner's own fire pump testing company. There were also many issues with the sprinkler system due to the lack of maintenance, including loaded sprinkler heads, improper functioning of fire department connection, failing garage dry systems, lack of testing of the standpipe system, among other items. Though ownership did attempt to make some repairs to the sprinkler system, there was never a comprehensive plan to address the issues overall. This became a bit of a cat and mouse game, with me finding the issues and them addressing only what was found, versus the sprinkler company actually doing a code-compliant full inspection and coming forth with a plan to make all the necessary repairs. The smoke control system is a 1980s system, so it's an evac system, which just draws air out of the staircases. This system works by having the ability to pull the air through the system. This building has windows in the staircases that open, so it renders ineffective the smoke control system. We required this system to be evaluated, repaired, and updated as necessary to work function correctly. The egress paths. Based on the inspections, we found violations in egress paths in the building included damaged, altered, and non-functioning fire doors throughout the property. We asked numerous times for the owner to provide a comprehensive inspection report of the doors, which was not provided. This is a requirement of both the fire and building codes. Also, there was a lack of emergency exit signage and lighting, and there's no safe path from the garage since the doors from the garage are locked. There are also open, unsheltered sections within the stair tower which are considered part of the means of egress from the property. You have to egress from one section of the tower out onto a roof deck to enter the second or third section of the roof tower. The owner built combustible decks and handrails within these egress paths. This construction provided the materials for the extension of the fire that occurred next door at 370 Ocean Ave, which carried across the deck and into the building and rendered that egress unusable by the occupants, requiring the Revere Fire Department to enter the building at 370 and conduct rescues on that floor. Well, speaking about fire responses to the building, with detail present at the department, there's still a detail present at this building. The fire department in the past 20 months has responded to this property 85 times. That's 4 to 5 responses per week. These responses included 4 fires at the property. As discussed earlier, 2 of the fires were in the building. One was in the trash chute because the trash chute was overstuffed up into the floors. Another one was in the trash room because the room was overstuffed with trash. And 2 of them were in the garage. Thankfully, the fire detail on site called in 3 out of these 4 fires, and we were able to get there immediately and address the issue, and it was not allowed to extend further into the building. Now, I'm not one to complain about runs, that's our job. But these type of buildings typically have several calls for service, with large percentage of them being medical. But of the 85 runs, only 12 were medical assistance at this property. They were more related to building issues such as elevator problems, faults or malfunctions of the fire alarm system, water issues related to leaking plumbing or leaking from rainwater getting into the building. So we're going on site and acting as building maintenance. This is not a typical call volume for these type of buildings. With the presence of the fire detail, the run volume for this property would have been much higher. Without the presence of the fire detail, I could see that the run volume for this property could be much higher. The fire detail also has dealt with several issues without calling for additional assistance. This is taxing on the fire department to have the detail here and the number of runs to this property. For the record, the owner chose to hire the Revere Fire Department to maintain the safety at this building. Unfortunately, the property owners have not paid the fire detail since February of this year. These violations and conditions at this building I consider serious. This is a real threat to the health and safety of the building occupants, the public, and the emergency responders. Therefore, I would recommend the board consider a vote to condemn this property tonight. Thank you for your time. One point of clarification I have to make. It's not that the fire pump would only reach water to the 6th floor. We don't know that water will reach beyond the 6th floor with the compromised fire pump. Just want to make that point of clarification.
Thank you. The city's third witness is Louis Cavagnaro, the building commissioner for the city of Revere.
Good evening. My name is Louis Cavagnaro. I'm the building commissioner for the city of Revere, and it's my responsibility to ensure the building code for the city. I was part of the inspections of the property at 364 Ocean Ave on November 21st, 2022, and on December 14th, 2022. I assisted in preparing the December 21st, 2022 order to correct, and I signed it. It lists the sanitary and building code violations at the property at the time. For background information here, the violations are essentially the same as 370. They're basically the same. I am familiar with the repairs needed at 364 Ocean Ave, and I'm also familiar with the process required for permits for that work. No permits for repairs have been issued so far. There were some permits for dumpsters, but that's it. What needs to happen for this building is one comprehensive master building permit similar to 370. The property owner applied for this permit on February 9th, 2024, and the permit still has not been issued, and it's because the permit was deficient. I provided comments to the contract on February 14th, 2024. They needed to provide a Chapter 34 review and identify the project's code compliance. Additionally, the project required a project representative similar to 370, and details concerning the fireproofing and emergency backup generator were missing. They were also missing the initial construction control affidavits, and this is just basic standard practice, and all they do is copy the plans from 370 and basically do the same thing with 364. So it's just hard to understand why the permit was applied for with missing plans. The deficient permit application was submitted by a contractor who, according to state law, does not have the qualifications required for this scope of work at 364 Ocean Ave. As far as we are aware, the contractor mainly builds commercial and retail spaces. He does not have any experience with building or renovating high-rise residential buildings. Paul Cheever and I met with this contractor, Chris Tenaglia, and the architect for the project, Matthew O'Boyle, at the property to do a site visit and discuss the remediation of the building on February 22nd, 2024. As a result of that meeting, I had some concerns. They seemed to not know about many of the requirements for the remediation of this building. They told us they had not been provided the order to correct from December 22, and that was very concerning, considering they had already applied for a building permit and they didn't even know what violations were there. For instance, they are unaware that the exterior wood decks and walkways needed to be replaced, or that the sliding windows and the stairways also need to be replaced. As for an NFPA 241 safety plan, this submission was confusing and insufficient. Neither Mr. Tenaglia nor Mr. O'Boyle was going to be present at the site full-time during construction, yet Mr. Tenaglia was listed as the fire safety supervisor in the safety plan, and Mr. O'Boyle said that he would be the project representative. Mr. O'Boyle is not qualified to be the project representative because the city required it to be a fire protection engineer since the building was going to be occupied while this work was being done. Both roles require a full-time presence during the construction project. The only person who was going to be present full-time was someone with no credentials and no way to evaluate his qualifications to be in such an important position. Since March 2024, Water's Edge submitted some reports and testing results of some mold remediation efforts in the building, but that's it. That occurred on May 2nd, 2024. Since then, the owner has taken no actions. They have not responded to any of my comments on the permit application, and there just seems to be no progress at the building. I recently performed a site visit at the building on July 17th, 2024, and the conditions included in the 2022 order to correct have still not been resolved, and tenants are still on the property. And as the lawyer says, this is the city's last resort, and due to the violation of the building, I think the Board of Health should condemn the building.
Thank you for hearing the city's witnesses. The city would like to reserve time to respond to a motion from the property's owner that we received shortly before the hearing, but I expect you'll hear from the owner on the motion itself. We're just asking for time to respond. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So now we will open up the meeting to the public. So I think first we'll have the lawyers or the team from the building and the owners of the building. Thank you. And just to clarify, this is 364 Ocean Avenue, and it's owned by Water Edge Limited Partnership.
Yes. My name is David Fry, and I'm an attorney, and I represent Water's Edge Limited Partnership. So Attorney Lavelle just mentioned a motion to dismiss, which I have submitted to the board this evening. There are some procedural issues that I think the board should be made aware of in how it is that the city is making this petition before it. The first issue that should come to mind is the fact that this order to correct is from December of 2022, and nothing has been done with it since then, okay? And if you look at the state sanitary code and the provision that I cite, the city has to bring its petition for condemnation within 45 days of the service of the order. It's far too late. The other issue is that neither the order to correct nor any inspection form is signed under the pains and penalties of perjury. And in fact, the board didn't put anybody under oath before hearing the testimony. Now, the inspection form itself has to be signed under the pains and penalties of perjury. What you'll notice is there's no inspection form. There's just an order to correct signed by the city officials, and they don't sign it under the pains and penalties of perjury either. Importantly, under oath, in the receivership case, which you heard a little bit about from Attorney Tellier, Deputy Chief Cheever admitted under oath that he did not prepare any of the orders to correct. They were prepared by counsel. The code requires that the inspector classify the violations. The violations cannot be classified by outside counsel, private counsel, hired by the city. So those are the procedural issues. Then Attorney Tellier made much ado about the financial issues and the liens and the previous cases. None of those have anything to do with what's before you today, whether or not to condemn the building. The issue of receivership is being heard by the Eastern Housing Court already. It is scheduled for an additional hearing in the middle of September. And Judge Bagdoyan, who has been involved in that case, is very much aware of the ongoing issues and the history of the property. Receivership is a different remedy than condemnation, which is an extreme remedy. So the question is, an inspection happens in December of 2022, and here we are, and they keep saying it 22 months later, and now they want to move for condemnation. But why? Well, one of the reasons why, I think, has to do with a letter that Attorney Tellier sent to my office on July 25th, saying if the fire watch fees were not paid, that the city would remove the fire watch and then proceed with condemnation. So we have outstanding invoices that are owed for the fire watch. I'm not disputing that. My client is willing to hire a private company to take over the fire watch duties if the city feels that the fact that it has been unpaid means that they're going to remove the fire watch. The city's attorneys are also not telling you about the work that has been done. So we heard much about the fire alarm panel. It has been repaired. My understanding that it is functional. It is not utilizing brand new parts. It is an older system, but I have someone from the fire alarm company who provide testimony as to its functionality and the fact that it should provide instantaneous alert to the City of Revere Fire Department, and that they would be able to respond after getting that alert. The fire pump is also an issue. My client's position was they want to at least make a temporary repair to the pump. Deputy Chief Cheever denied that permit. I understand his position that that's not a permanent solution, but at least we can try to get the pump up to a functionality where it does have sufficient water pressure. We weren't even given the opportunity to take the permit to even try. We were told that that was not going to happen. Attorney Tellier said that the property is mold infested.
Please try to speak into the microphone. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Attorney Tellier said the property is mold infested, and that's not accurate either. The building commissioner just told you that we submitted the mold remediation tests as part of the permit application for the global permit. So there's no mold at the property. If the city's concern is about what floor we have certain residents on, there may be a way so we can move people to a lower floor. We're fine with that. What we don't want to happen is for a condemnation to occur. If the board issues a condemnation order in particular right after having this hearing, that means the city potentially could go out and placard the property right now and render all these people without a place to live. So if there's any even thought of doing that, we need to do it in a way that there's time to address the issues. Also, my client may elect to appeal the decision of the board and ask for a stay of any order. So we can't just do it in the middle of the night and then expect people to be placed somewhere else, and that's what the city is asking for. To me, that's insane. So they're saying that condemnation is a last resort, but they've sat on their hands for over 7 years, if you really think about it. They're saying it's the same problem from 7 years ago. These fire alarm systems are not just in this building. These same systems are in buildings, all sorts of high rises that have not yet been upgraded. The only difference is this system had a failure after water damage, replacement parts have been put in, and the city wants it upgraded. It will be upgraded. It has to be upgraded, there's no doubt. But the question is, does that mean we just condemn the whole building? So I would ask that you dismiss this matter on procedural grounds, because you don't have anything signed on the pains and penalties of perjury. You don't have actual inspection reports. Oh, and one other thing, the notice itself from the city alerting the occupants and my client about this hearing did not include, as required by the code, the statement that we are entitled to make a copy of the inspection reports and the Board of Health's file. Is there a Board of Health file on this matter to be copied? I don't know. And we were not informed of our right to get that, and that's also in the brief. My client has a right to due process, as we all do, as do the residents, and the residents should have been informed of that right. They have a right to get a copy of the reports and the file, wherever it may live. And they weren't advised of that right. The lien holders were not advised of the orders to correct, which is also another code requirement. So the city wants to rush forward on their December 21st, 2022 order to correct, not having conducted any follow-up inspection. We were told that Mr. Cheever went back to the property. Where's his inspection report? Where's the new order to correct? Where are the closeout of the violations that have actually been addressed, as acknowledged by the building commissioner? So I'd ask you not rush to judgment and not make a rash decision this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the board like to resolve the motion first, or
Can we just resolve it? Yeah, because this is an important kind of step. If you're claiming that the procedural, the matters of the procedure, then that would stop everything right away. So can we just address that? Yeah.
Hello again. I'm Joshua Lovell on behalf of the city. The owner makes three different arguments asking this board to stop the hearing, to not listen to the facts about what's happening today. The first ground is that the order is stale, and that's simply not true. An order to correct isn't required to give this board authority to hear a condemnation and make that decision. Water's Edge, in making that argument, relies on law from 2007. It tells you that in the filing. It gives you in a footnote the new law, which says that even if you find it to be non-timely, that doesn't make the order invalid. That's not a reason not to proceed. It's absurd that the property owner would try to use time in its favor when it's the one that has done nothing to protect the people in this building or fix the building. Additionally, you have testimony from today. You have an inspection as recently as July 17th. You're getting the latest information, and you haven't heard anything otherwise from the property owners themselves. The second grounds was relating to the order to correct. It is sufficient and it is valid. Water's Edge never appealed. You heard that from Attorney Tellier. You heard the effect of the failure to appeal is that the property owner waived the ability to challenge that order. You can't hear that today. It's not available to the property owner to argue that. Secondly, Water's Edge has tried this argument before and failed, that the involvement of attorneys in assisting the city in performing its functions does not render the order to correct invalid. It's a standard practice. When Water's Edge tried this in court, the judge shut it down immediately. There's absolutely nothing wrong, and you haven't heard that anything in the order is incorrect. You're just hearing highly technical and flawed arguments. The last ground, again, another technical argument, relates to the notice for this hearing. I ask the board to carefully review the sections of the sanitary code because the supposed requirements the owner is citing to aren't what's happening today. The notice requirements are provided in the state sanitary code in section 831, which describe the prior notice required. That itself refers to section 833. All applicable requirements have been met. The owner is here. The owner is well aware of their rights. There's absolutely no justification for not proceeding or ignoring what's happening at that building today. As Attorney Tellier said, enough is enough. We're here to hear evidence. You've heard evidence and shouldn't be twisted or argued without some evidence on the other side. Thank you.
I think that did clarify some things for me in terms of the decision to go forward with this process, but I'd like to hear from your witnesses and more of your testimony.
Okay. Just 1 second.
Hanson?
Excuse me, can anybody speak?
Yes, people will be allowed to speak. Sorry, we're just going to let the witnesses from the law team from the building, and then people who live at the building will be able to speak. Yep.
Hi, Board. This is John Henson. I'm the owner of Henson Fire Protection Services. We've been testing and maintaining these buildings up on Ocean Avenue for over 10 years. We do numerous buildings. We work for Carabetta, we work for others that are on the Strip. New England has a problem. There's a lot of fire alarm panels. They're simplex, and they're in all these buildings in Massachusetts. And they're 40 years old. Some are in worse conditions than others. Obviously, these buildings are in the worst condition because they've been highly damaged with water, and we were able to, Deputy Chief has allowed us to bring it back to life in the condition it is. It still was, brought back with used parts, and we did our best, but I'd have to say, we still do our quarterly tests. The smoke still trip, the pulse stations ring, the horns sound, the sprinkler system, gentlemen come in, we test just like usual, and it transmits to the the Revere Fire Department. They allowed to have a fire watch that has to do with your city, and again, they allowed us to bring it back to as best as we could. I'd have to say it's probably 97% liable to where it is. If you came down to a situation where you said, well, what's the warranty on this, or what, would it not function? Sure, it's possible. It's possible in a brand new system. It's very possible with these old systems. For some reason, these old panels, the cards in them, I think, are more sturdy than the stuff we sell today. But in any case, it is a 40-year-old panel, and it's 100% has to be removed in time. Like any building next to you, this building or down the Strip. The biggest thing is, it's a city problem. These condos and apartment houses can't find the money, and you're living with it. And this is one of the buildings that probably is the spotlight's on. So, hope anybody have any questions about it?
I do have a question. So Attorney Fry was saying that he could provide a witness that says that the fire panel is indeed working. Are you the witness that are saying that these people can be assured that the fire panel is working, and if there were to be a fire there today, you can assure them that the system will go off?
No, we can't. But we can't do that in any system. I don't care if I installed it tomorrow and it was brand new. Once I walk out of it, doesn't mean that you couldn't have a catastrophic problem with the fire alarm system and something didn't work. That's just the way life is. It could be working after we test it. It could be not working when we walk out.
And what about the fire pump system? Can you attest that it is
working? It has nothing to do
working?
with me.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just always have to remember we're dealing with panels that are 40 years old. There's no longer any available parts, and this has been a long time, like Deputy Chief has said. You got lucky, we were able to put it back together and make the floors able to at least identify and notify the system, and also dial out to the fire alarm company, which is us, which monitors it. And there's a master box tied to it as well, so there's 2 lines of communications.
Thank you.
Briefly follow up, and I do have the quarterly reports of the testing if the board wants those, and those were prepared by Mr. Henson. I can submit those. I have copies for the city as well.
Okay, yeah, we can take those. We'll continue with the proceedings, though.
Okay.
Or your
next
witnesses.
I just have one more witness.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to call Aldo Parnaso next.
Good evening. I'm Olo Pernasa. I'm representing Water's Edge LP. I've been involved with this property for approximately 6 years, right after the 2017. My main objective there was to install new elevators and also monitor the move-ins for the property and any kind of health and safety issue. From when I first started there till the the water damage to the panel, I worked hand in hand with the city building officials to make sure the units were ready for move-in. And one of the requirements is that they need to be certified by the Board of Health. And within that time span, I calculated approximately 124 certificates of fitness were issued to Water's Edge LP, approximately. Not only they are required to check the apartment, they're also required to check the common areas when they come in and visit. After their visit, every time, except for a few times where we missed an issue in the apartment, and they had to come back to retest or to reinspect, we received certificates of fitness for that, for our buildings. When the issue happened with the fire panel getting water damage, I was on the property. I did not receive a call, but I was on the property doing remediation for the water damage, including getting the water dried. One inspection I recall was with Mr. Cavanieri. I'm not sure who else with us, Louis Cavaniero. We were up on the roof after the fire in 370, and that's when they said we need to replace, they started saying we need to replace the decks. The decks that we have are identical to the other buildings on our street. And at that time, there was a crane on the next building over hoisting pressure-treated wood to their roofs, installing new decks. And I asked Mr. Cavaniero, the rules apply to everybody? And his statement was, well, we'll be talking to them. That was a statement. Since then, those decks have been built. But yet we're required to take down our decks that are not up to code. Everything that I was asked to do, I did, and I always report back to the city what's been done in the property. That's all I really have to say.
Great, thank you. All right, so now this is still an open meeting to the public, so if anyone wants to speak, people maybe who live at the building, I'm not sure if they have counsel or an attorney representing them.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, council. I am attorney Andrew Berger. I am the counsel for the 364 Ocean Ave Tenant Association. These tenants really came together. I believe there's 29 separate units that are all working together and are certainly very concerned. Certainly they want a working fire alarm system, but there is a fear that if you were to condemn the property tonight and order an immediate vacate, it would cause undue hardship to many, many families who are all here to express that. And so whatever you rule, we ask that you give reasonable time for these tenants to make alternative accommodations, whether that be to leave and go somewhere else or to get other housing through the landlord. We're not taking a position on whether you should condemn or whether you should not condemn. We're just here to ask for reasonable time. And so I have 3 tenants here from the association who'd like to speak, and so I'm going to turn it over to them.
Good evening. I'm Miriam El Fadili. I live in Berlin since the end of 2016. I'm an essential worker, healthcare worker at Taft Medical Center. I rely on the train to go to my work and to drop off my daughter at the daycare. So for me to go somewhere else, it's just gonna jeopardize my entire life. This will affect the entire department, which is the operating room of Taft Medical Center. as an essential worker and as a, without a reasonable time to move somewhere else, it's just gonna harm all of us. I can attend my job if I have no daycare for my daughter, she's 4 years old.
Thank you.
Hi. For us, he's very...
Mind just saying your name?
My name is Vanessa.
Okay.
For us or for my family, it's so worried. My baby is almost coming. And I feel like sick, that is stressful, because I don't know when my baby is born in the building or no, I don't know. And that is so really scary for my family, for the pets too, because I don't know what happened with this problem, because I think so it's a big problem, and we don't have any answer for the landlord, I don't know, and we stay here for listen the new or the good news, I don't know, that's it.
Good evening. My name is Evgeny Pavlukhin. I am living in 364 apartment 206. So I'm standing here. It's not my choice. I would prefer not to be here, but we have facing the very interesting challenge. So to give you a little bit of a history of my living in Massachusetts, I left New York about 2 years ago, moved in 370. I live in apartment 508. And unfortunately, on the 11th floor was a fire when I came back from work, and everything was flooded. We were allowed to live in the building for about 3 to 4 days when people comes in and basically kick us out, without any ability to go back in the buildings or anything like that. Our locks were changed. Everything that we had at that moment were locked in our apartments. We were only allowed 2 hours a day to come back, maybe look at the plants or grab everything else. I spent most of my entire savings to stay in the hotels for about 2 months. The reasons for it, not because I was unable to find an apartment, no, but because the communication was less than zero. Just to give you a little bit of my background, I'm working in physical security, providing the cameras and access control system for the schools. And that's very important for me to stay in the communication with everything else to make sure our children are safe. Unfortunately, except Michael, I was not getting a response from anybody else, including the city. City, we had multiple meetings that they provided us a lawyer. Edward, I'm not gonna say his last name, but city knows him. Unfortunately, he disappeared after the 6 months in the communication. I have everything in emails. If you guys are required that, I can forward it to you. After that, nothing happened. No communication, no explanation from anybody else. Visit this courthouse more than 5 times. Unfortunately, it was less than pleasant communication, and basically I was told there is nothing anybody can do. The reasons why I moved to that building, because I just have nowhere to go. I have no relatives, no family. My ex-fiance, we broke off shortly after the 370 failure because we were in such a hard situation. She didn't want to continue doing everything. So now you can imagine what I was facing at that point. So, and the reasons why I moved back in here, because it's suitable for me, and that's closer to where I am working. That's basically it. So I'm not asking to look at that particular story, but just make the rational decision and help us out. If we need more time, please give us more time to extend and find a suitable living. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Smith. I reside at 364 Ocean Ave, apartment 309. I'm not saying the building doesn't have problems, because of course it does, and everybody knows it does. But I don't think it's in a state to be condemned. You're looking at, like you said, 41 families. 41 families consist of hundreds of people. Massachusetts is in a housing crisis, and we all know that. Are you willing to put your name on hundreds of people being homeless? Because like the shelters say, the governor says, you got 3 days or you got 5 days. That's it. That's all you got. Now, all these violations that you got on this paper, have you came back to check to see if any of the violations were fixed? Because guess what? I have insomnia, and I walk the floors all night long for my fellow tenants. And I walk them. Wires hanging down? No, that's been fixed. In the firefighter, 2 fires in the garage? No, not in our garage, in a detached garage next door. So make it clear, not in our garage, in a detached garage. And I called one of the fires in. So make it clear and make it right. Make it right for us. We've done nothing wrong at all. All of this came about, and everybody says, oh, I'm so concerned about the tenants. I'm so concerned about the tenants. It took you 2 years to be concerned about us? 2 years. Now you're concerned about us. Okay? This report was 20 months ago, but yet now you're concerned about us. Why didn't you send us this report 20 months ago when you made it? Why didn't you send it 18 months ago? Why didn't you send it a year ago when it asked? No, but you're all concerned about us. Not going back to see, oh, there's tiles hanging down. No, there's not. There's holes in walls. No, there's not. Why? Because they fixed them. But did anybody go back and see? No. Why? Because a firefighter said, oh, the same problems are there. You believe them, but don't want to believe us when we live there. Rat infested? Never seen a rat in my apartment at all. At all. Lies. Lies, why? Because I live there. Fire alarms, if there's smoke in my apartment, they came around and checked everybody's smoke detectors. When they go off in the house, they go off in the hallway. Do you actually think that if a smoke detector's going off and they're going off in the hallway, that I'm not going to call the fire department? Or anybody else that lives in that building is not going to call the fire department? Of course we are. What are we, idiots? This is our home. You're talking about give me more time? No, I don't want more time. I want my home. Like everybody else that lives there, we want our home. Do things right by us. Not right by the owner. Do things right by us. Because we're the tenants. We have to live there. Re-inspect the building. See what's still wrong. See what's been fixed. Wires hanging down? No, there's no more wires hanging down. Why? Because I went to the garage. Okay? No, you don't see things like that. Mold and mildew? No, maybe dust. Absolutely dust. But mold and mildew? No. How do I know? Because I took a water bottle and a rag and went across it. And what is it? Dust and dirt. Dust and dirt. Protect our homes. Because no, I don't want more time. I want my home. And like I said, your inspection was like 2 years ago, and a lot of the violations have been fixed. Okay? This consists of 41 families, which consists of hundreds of people. Hundreds of people that we're offered by housing or whoever was outside our building 3 days in a shelter or 3 days in a hotel. Why would you wait to the end of August? And 20-something days, here comes fall, and 90 days after that, there comes winter. To think about closing a building. We have people from newborn to in their 80s living in that building. And you're talking about throwing us in the street. Putting us in the street. Because you know she's not going to provide housing for us. You know that absolutely, positively she ain't. And all this condemnation only started after the firefighters weren't being paid. So you can use any excuse you want, hide behind anything you want to hide behind, because you're full of shit, full of bull. Because let me tell you something, this all started because of that. This all sprang up because of that. And you're using a 2-year inspection. Almost 2 years ago, you inspected that property and never came back. Never came back at all. 2 fires in the garage. What a lie. What an absolutely lie. What a lie. It was a detached garage. And evidently, when he said 2 fires in the garage, you were like, yep, that's something else I got on them. No, it's a lie. So many things that these lawyers come up here and say, Absolute lies. Why? They don't live there. I do. I live there and my fellow tenants live there. And shame on you for trying to put us in the street. Shame on all of you. Every single one of you that signed that paper to bring this meeting here. Shame on all of you for trying to put us in the street at the end of summer, beginning of fall, and there comes winter. Shame on every person that's even thinking about this. Shame on everybody. Shame on all of you. Because when you leave here, you can go lay your head in your bed and you're okay. Shame on you.
That's going to conclude the tenant portion, I believe. So.
Okay, great. Anyone else, any other words?
Deputy Chair again. I want to respond to a couple of things. As far as mold goes, I'm not a mold expert, but I know what mold looks like when it grows on ceiling tiles after they've been wet and dried several times from leaks within the building. Ownership has a tendency of taking down the wet tiles and spray painting them and putting them back up after the leak has occurred, whatever event occurs, whether it's a pipe failure or leaks across the roof, through the windows. So there was some remote remediation done, but if you go in the building now, you can clearly see what looks like mold is back. As far as the 2 fires in the garage, there is homeless encampments in that garage. It's part of the parcel of 364, and there's a driveway and the other section of garage is on the other side. So that tells me ownership's not paying attention to their property if they got homeless encampments in their garage and they're building fires. So was it in the garage? Yes, it's in the garage as part of this complex. That's maintenance and ownership not taking care of the property. As far as the fire pump goes, there was an accusation that I wouldn't allow the fire pump to be rebuilt. The review comments on the fire pump was to give me a comprehensive repair plan and a replacement plan. That was not done. So it wasn't denied, it was denied as applied, and comments were provided to provide a more comprehensive design. Now, as far as the fire alarm system, retired firefighter John Henson is well aware that he used parts that he got on eBay, which are no longer UL listed. So he said, I allowed him. By code, he's not allowed to do that. By law, he's not allowed to do that. I allowed him to put used parts in that panel to get that panel functioning again, to get the elevator recall working, to get the elevator mechanic out of the building to save Water's Edge money. So that was agreement. In that agreement, John Henson said he would not certify that panel, and he knows full well he can't, and he knows his insurance wouldn't allow him to do it. And as far as a new system goes, those components are all UL listed, they're registered, they're listed to work together, so a chance of a new system not working is very slim unless there was a programming issue. And then there's ownership and liability associated with that. And you heard John Henson also say, it might work. And he also said, it's mostly restored. And you also heard me say that it's going into trouble daily and rotates back out. It's what's called non-latching. So you can't really figure out where the troubles are, so they come and go. My fire details report it in the book. We got a log down there of all the events. I told you we also respond to the panel many times and just reset it. And there are issues with the system, and John Henson's well aware of that. And we also asked the fire alarm professional engineer to review and sign off on it. He wouldn't. So they know this is a compromised system. Is it not working? It's working. To what extent? No one knows, because no one will sign off on it. That's the condition it is. So right now, it's deficient. I allowed John to use parts that he knows he's not supposed to use in his system in order to try to save some functions of this system. Okay, and as far as the sprinkler contractor also, where's the sprinkler contractor? Where's his witness to talk about all his issues with the fire pump? There's no one here. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Lunacy, one of the residents at 364. I don't want to sway the city in any one direction. What I do want to say is to give some serious thoughts to this moment that we're all experiencing right now. The city, the state has a serious, serious housing crisis. It's at crisis, it's at epic proportion, right? We have encampment, right, that is right at one of the garages, which I have seen people sleeping there, tents built behind the woods there, like very, very true. And this problem it's not just a Boston issue. It has definitely trickled into Revere because the Blue Line will bring you straight into the city of Revere from Boston. Rent in the city of Revere just within the last 5 years is absolutely out of control. For a lot of people who live at 364 now, it is most likely the only place we can afford. And so if you are going to move to condemn this building, you're literally going to impact the livelihood of the 41 families you named here today. And so I ask, if you are going to move to condemn the building, please think about the financial roadblocks many of the families here today, and who are not even here because they're working their second job, the many challenges this is going to pose for them. And so please, if you do move to condemn the building, we ask that you do it in a thoughtful way so that when we leave 364, we do it in our own terms, not because you're condemning it and forcing us to then join the many, many homeless people we have all over the city of Boston and Revere. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Hello, my name is Gana Sebastianova. I have a very short note. Attorney from city stated many times that promises from Waters Edge are charade. You don't believe them. At the same time, he emphasizes that we should believe that they would provide housing for us because there is a new law. They do not pay taxes, breaking law, and you can't reinforce it. If you tell them, oh, provide housing for tenants who are displaced, and they don't do it, who will reinforce it? We will be on streets, and this is true. People who live in this building are working people. They don't have houses, they're not rich. They are not in subsidized buildings because they work. Please consider it. To move anywhere right now, it's $15,000. Everybody has it on free on account. First month, last month, security deposit, moving fees, and agency fees. Minimum $3,000 per two-bedroom, if you like it. Please consider this and do not put working people on the streets because they will lose work. They will lose place to live. And this will not be because of Waters Edge only. It's because of timing that's selected for this hearing. If people knew a year ago that it's coming, they would not extend their leases. They would save money. They would not go to vacation. They would not buy new car. They would do something reasonable. And you make us all fools. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Paul Visconti. I am the owner of the hair salon at 364 Ocean Ave. So I've been a business owner in Revere since April of '83. I've been at Waters Edge, I think maybe 28 years. And I have not even received a letter saying anything about this condemnation. I got an email, a text from a client who kind of passed this information on to me, which I was in, complete shock. I know the building has issues. And, I'm again, not trying to persuade you either way, but I think if you do go the way of condemnation, which I hope that you don't, I hope you might be able to work something out, maybe one last try with them. If you do, I'm just asking that you give us ample time. I'll be put out of business. The rent is cheap here, and of course you get what you pay for. If I have to move and try to find another spot, it's not going to happen. I will close down. But for the residents, you need to, if you can, you need to do kind of what's right for them. And hopefully give them one more chance to do something. Okay, thank you.
Doctor, I was here the last time, you recall. I wonder where these people's blood pressure is right now with what is happening to them. I told you my blood pressure raised, didn't I? Because of the condition I was put under by the city of Revere. You get it, pal? A joke, huh? Take care of your dog.
Okay, let's keep it to what we're talking about. Thank you. Could I just ask for the Revere Outside Counsel to come up and just clarify the condemnation process, just so everyone kind of understands it and what it would look like? What? Sure, I can definitely ask you that same question. Yes. Yeah, we can definitely ask you that question. Okay, thank you.
The condemnation process is as you've seen tonight. There would be a hearing this evening, and a vote would be taken by the board, and an order and findings would be issued by the board. It would be then in the Board of Health and the cities work together to decide as to enforcement, and when they seek to enforce the order, to vacate and secure the building. That would be in the discretion of the Board of Health and the city. Sir, is that what you were asking for? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just the time frame of
Yep,
when.
and that would be, the issue of enforcement would be left to the discretion of the Board of Health and the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, please, go ahead.
Thank you. I just appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. First, I think the board has to determine whether or not you have jurisdiction to even hear this case. So the motion to dismiss, I think, has to be acted on in writing in some, thank you, acted on in writing in some fashion. All right? I do think there are serious procedural issues, and it was even brought up by one of the residents. You have a 2022 order, you have no re-inspection report in front of you, you have no current inspection report in front of you, no current order to correct. You cannot condemn under those circumstances without that information. I believe it's 5 calendar days, though, if the board is to render decisions. Typically, you're allowed 5 calendar days before you make a decision. That's what it says. You don't have to vote tonight. And I would urge you to read the code, and I have the code. I have the updated code, in fact. So the 2007 version is no longer in effect, but I have the 2023 version, the one we keep hearing about, that has this new provision concerning comparable housing, and I would submit the code to the board if you would like, so you can have it for reference, and so you can actually look at the motion I filed as to the deficiencies of the city's actions today. They didn't take action when they were supposed to, and now they're trying to rush it in at the last second, if I may.
Does anyone else want to speak? I think the next part of it would be us deliberating out in front of you guys, but.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to take a moment. My wife and I have been in 364 Ocean Ave for 7 years. My wife has stricken with cancer. She's unable to do almost anything. I'm a disabled United States Marine, disabled vet. I have my own injuries. I only hope that they can at least give us some time You know, my poor wife cries every day. What am I going to do? And the rest of the people in the building are all very nice people. What am I going to do? I got kids. Everybody shouldn't panic. But yet, the people that own this building should be aware that, you know, they're never going to do anything. So, you know what? The city should just take the goddamn building. You know what I mean? It's just awful. You know, I'm a disabled vet, you know, and you're going to put a disabled vet on the street? No. You know what they told me? Even if the veterans could help me, I make too much money. 2 tours in Vietnam, I make too much money. You know, I thank everybody for what they did, for what they're trying to do for us, but I don't know what's going to happen. People are saying, should I pay my rent this month or should I not pay the rent? I don't know the answer. You know, as long as I'm not getting thrown out, of course I'll pay my rent. I never, in 7 years, never missed a payment. People are panicking, you know. There's a lot of disabled people that are in my building, and they all deserve a break. At least before I leave tonight, will they at least tell you that you have X amount of time before you leave, before you get thrown out? Are they going to tell us we have to move out? I don't know the answer. I don't know if I came here for nothing other than just everyone's talking. I think everybody's trying to do something, but yet, are we going to be able to stay in this building for at least 2 months, 3 months, you know, before someone can find a place to go? My wife has a service animal. I have a little puppy myself. You know, a lot of places don't want you to have animals or pets or whatever. My wife's dog is a service animal. She can go anywhere. But, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to have her. You know, she's got a lot of issues with the cancer. And for me to just pick up and I have to go home every day and listen to her cry. Where am I going to go? Where am I going? We can't move. How am I going to? Honey, relax. Relax, please. You know, I'm coming to the meeting today. Hopefully I can go home and say, you know, hon, I got a couple months at least. I mean, it's a scary tactic. The letter said, as of tonight at 6 o'clock, they could condemn the building, which means you could not return to your apartment. Now, even to put something like that in a letter to scare the hell out of people, you know? I mean, first of all, I said that that's not going to happen, you know? But if it was condemned, if it's a violation where someone's life is threatened, you know, yeah, they can condemn the building. And yeah, you're right, you can't even go back to your house. But all of a sudden, you're just telling us we all got to get out? I just hope that you folks can put something together and at least give somebody a fair chance. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Barry Rockland. I live at 376. I'm one of 3 people from Building 3 of the Water's Edge units where we have everything up to date and we're doing just fine. It's been a real embarrassment having our building that looks just like all those other buildings, such that we have an enormous banner that says not a Capiano building. So, I mean, it's been a long time now, and we're a little embarrassed about what's going on in those other buildings. But here's the thing: I hear so many of you saying, no matter how this thing goes today, condemn or nay, we need some time. We need some time. And here's the only thing I want you to feel: we take about 15 breaths a minute. And that's 15 breaths of mold spores and char from the fires, from the mold, from the water damage. We know it's there. Save your lives. I hope and believe Revere will take care of the 41 people that are in that building. But by God, you need to be breathing clean air if you're going to live. You have to. You have to. So this building needs to be condemned, and Revere needs to take care of these people because we know that company, who I am not even naming, They're not going to. They haven't responded to anything. They haven't responded to phone calls. They've responded to nothing ever. Kiki she don't pick up the phone. You can't get her. She's not going to do anything. Revere is going to have to pull this out. And whatever we do, I know you think you want more time, but your next breath needs to not have these horrible pathogens in them that are going to kill you. That's the thing. Thanks.
I'd like to respond to that.
You want to, yeah. Okay, yeah. Does anyone else want to come up and speak? I think.
I'm just going to add that I did
Please keep brief,
I
yeah.
submitted the air quality test reports from May of 2024 from the remediation company. That's also part of the master building permit. There's no air quality issues at this building whatsoever.
Okay, I'm just going to ask the other Board of Health members if they have any questions, anyone they wanted to call up to speak. Thank you, everyone, for being patient.
I have a question. If it does go through the condemnation, what is the city going to help these people find other housing? What is going to be the process? So I don't know who would answer that question.
Well, I think that that question, I think, comes to us at the Board of Health in working with the city.
Okay.
Because I think, there's obviously the precedent to get people out when a building is condemned, but at the same time, we're dealing with people's lives. If it comes down to just, if the person's going to be on the street, we have to think about that and make a decision for the timing to be appropriate so that someone will be able to reasonably be able to get somewhere, and the city needs to facilitate that in any way possible. I mean, this is egregious that we're even here today talking about this. It's one of the most, as a physician, to think that we're talking about living situation where potentially is unsafe, and I know some people feel varying degrees of it, but if you look at the codes, there's these sanitary codes are being broken, things are not being fixed. I worry about the safety of the occupants from that perspective. I also worry about the safety of the occupants now that we're going to potentially condemn. I'm not saying that we're doing that, but I'm just saying, either option is very disturbing, and it's very challenging for me to think. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Bunker. As the Director of Public Health, I just want to say on record that the city is not going to turn their back on the tenants. And we recognize that there is a process to go through if the board does condemn, and that we, as a public health department and inspectional department, have the ability to work through that process in a way that recognizes the tenants have a very serious situation in front of them.
Viviana, do you want to call anyone up or have any questions? And we can talk. No, okay. Yeah, so we're going to close it for now, and we're going to, sorry. Okay, microphone's off. We're going to close it for now, and then we're just going to speak here, the board. Oh. Yes, do you mind coming up, please? Sorry. It's going to be the last one here. Do you mind hitting the...
Lunacy, resident of 364.
Yep.
Has the Board of Health made any recommendations to the property owners and have given them any sort of time frame to get those recommendations implemented? Because I'm hearing references to, 22 months ago, but there really hasn't been any timeline communicated as to expectations to act on those recommendations. And so have we really tried all efforts to have them work out some of the findings from the various inspections? Final question.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask Michael Wells, because he works with us with the Board of Health, if that communication has been had between the owners of this property?
We gave them this communication in 2022 with the order to correct or fix the violations, and we certainly wouldn't be in this situation today if they had acted on that order.
And there's been communication since that time about these violations?
There has been, when permits were pulled or attempted to be pulled, communication goes back and forth with contractors to rectify these issues, but unfortunately, no permits have been issued.
Yeah, I think if you do speak, can you please come up and talk? Sorry, I'm not trying to single you out here, but
So that means yous never went back, nobody ever went back and re-inspected all the violations that yous have.
There were additional inspections by the building department and fire department.
Why is there where's the inspections in? You have no answer. Where's the inspections? I was
I'm
trying to
sorry,
answer.
my microphone was not on.
Where's the inspections? You said other people came out after 2022. Then where's the inspections?
I will refer that to our council.
If I may.
do you mind stepping and letting the council speak? Thanks.
Paul Tellier for the City of Revere. There have been multiple inspections, and in fact, there have been multiple inspections, and it's been reported to the court. Each time that we've had a hearing, both Deputy Cheever and I believe also Commissioner Cavagnaro have gone out to the property, they've walked the property, and then they've gone to court and reported on it. Please, to be clear, this did not happen in December of 2022, and then nothing happened between that date. I went through for 20 minutes a long history of exactly what has occurred. The fact that we are literally in court going through the evidence and the testimony, the fact that that Commissioner Cavagnaro and Deputy Fire Chief Paul Cheever has been out to that property numerous times to investigate, as late as July 17th, 2024. So to be clear, the City of Revere has been there, has been on top of it. The City of Revere did not want to be here this evening.
Why can't nobody show us, why can't anybody show us an inspection paper?
Yeah, I think we're,
No, see, that's the point. Nobody can show us no inspection paper.
okay,
But
yeah,
they're
no, you
saying
made your
this one
point.
came
You
out.
made your point clear. Thank you.
Excuse me. They're saying this one came out, this one came out, this one came out. You show us inspection papers for everything else, but you have no inspection papers beyond 2022.
Thank you very much. Well, your point is taken.
Just because
And we're
Attorney
just,
Tellier
and we're
was
just
up
going to
here.
close this out after you here, okay,
I
please.
appreciate that. The inspection reports have to be provided. Look at the code. When the inspection happens, there's supposed to be an inspection report signed under the pains and penalties of perjury. There's been nothing of that nature since ever. You don't have a single inspection report in front of you.
Okay, I'm just going to close the meeting here. From outside speaking, we're going to talk. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to speak with the Board of Health. Lauren, do I have to keep my mic on for this? Okay. Yeah, so I think this, as I reiterated earlier, this is very hard in so many ways. It doesn't feel right making a decision on something like of this magnitude, but there's certain regulations and laws that we have to go by. I'm just curious are there anything that concerns you about this condemnation in terms of how the city handled it, or how documentation was made, or how communication was done? I think nothing's perfect, no system. When you have violations and you try, and when they went ahead and they did the initial inspection, obviously there was time, there was communication. This didn't just happen in a vacuum and then there was no communication and then all of a sudden here we are today. Many people have spoken how there was communication and inspections, or not quote unquote formal inspections, but the fire department and building inspector going and checking to see if things had been made, changes had been made and they had not been made, or were partially made and not up to code. So I understand the concern from most of the people who live at the building to say like, well, things got fixed and, where's the proof that a formal inspection was done? And I agree there was not a formal inspection done, but there was after that initial one, but obviously there was one done, and when things are not fixed, you assume that they weren't fixed. So I just asked the other board members if they have any thoughts. I'm just kind of speaking out loud. Thank you for listening.
So it's very difficult. I really feel for the tenants. You are victims of the neglect of this property owner who has been told since 2017 that there's violations in there. They have been told numerous times that there are issues and nothing has been done. And it's not fair to you that you have been paying rent and you're not receiving a safe place to live. It's not fair to you that if there were to be a fire there tonight, that you don't know if those fire doors are gonna be working or not. You don't know if somebody could be spared because maybe the fire wouldn't be spread to somebody else. You don't know, and you cannot be assured by the people doing the fire testing whether that fire pump will work, whether the sprinkler system that's rusted will work. And so you deserve safe and livable conditions, and I'm very sorry that you are not receiving those right now. It seems to me like the landlord has been dragging their feet for 7 years. It seems to me like the city of Revere has provided them ample opportunity to fix those issues, and I don't hear from their attorney that what has been done, what you needed to get in order for you to feel safe in your homes tonight. So those are my thoughts, and I don't think it's right to give them more time to drag their feet for 1 more year, for 5 more years, for 7 more years, while you continue to live with this unknown of whether this fire system is gonna protect you or not. And I'm sorry you are all in this situation because you are the victims of this landlord's neglect. Kathy?
Okay, I want to add to that. I also have the concerns with the violations that you know about, but it sounds like no permits have been filled out to get the repairs done. I also worry about the health concerns that, as one of the gentlemen brought up, about that they're living with the molds, they're living with bad conditions, and they're breathing bad air in. What is this going to do to affect your health down the road? As if it hasn't with people who have chronic respiratory issues or chronic issues. Is this going to exacerbate it? So there is a danger with them. I mean, I am assuming that we would not say that at 6 o'clock the doors were going to be locked and no one could get back in. I'm assuming that a plan would be made.
Yeah, and that's where I think when we're here today, we think this happened so suddenly.
Right.
But obviously this was something that's been, coming to light, and this is something that's been building, and there's been ample time, and it's unfortunate when it comes to, condemnation, because you hear that word and you think, like, what? Like, how is that possible to go from living to all of a sudden, you have to leave? It doesn't even seem fathomable. And I don't even know, I can't even speak for the people sitting here who live there. I don't even want to know what you feel right now, because no one should ever have to feel that way, ever, in their life. It honestly sickens me to think about that and why we're even here. But, we have our duty to protect here in the Board of Health. And this decision was never going to be easy in any way. But my feelings at this time are going ahead with the condemnation. And the reason why I say that is because I'm worried about the safety. And I know what hazards a fire can do to someone's health, both imminently and long-term. And it's my duty as the chair of the Board of Health to protect people's health. And everyone can have opinions about it. And I think when I have a patient who comes into a clinic, I always think about, okay, what can I do to protect them as best as possible? And nothing's perfect. I give medications. I, prescribe treatments. Obviously, my hope is that I'm making the right decision for them in their best interest and doing everything I can based on my medical opinion and based on the information that I have today and based on the code violations and the continued neglect for the residents. I feel in that way that the condemnation is the only option to make a change happen. But I understand that when we face a condemnation, we have people's lives. We have pregnant people. We have people with little kids, infants. This is something that we can't take lightly. And if the city by any means thinks that we're going to send people out on the street, that is absolutely not true. And as the Board of Health and as a physician, I will make sure and work to help these families in any way that I am possible can do, to make sure that this is done gracefully and done in a way with dignity and done in a way that protects them at all costs. But that's my opinion, and I'd love to hear from the other board members. Sorry.
So I have to agree with you. I don't see another way to resolve this situation than to condemn the building. Again, 7 years, the property owner has had 7 years, multiple conversations with the city of Revere. And again, it's very difficult. I'm very sorry to all the tenants that are put in the situation. When you pay for rent, you should also get something back. You should get a safe place to live. And it would not be, with already 4 fires in that property, 1 in the trash room, 2 in the garage, with a homeless encampment in one of your garages. You don't know when the next fire is gonna go off, and then you won't be able to get out of there safely. And so you need a safe place to live. And so I would like to put in as what you said, Drew, I hope that the Board of Health and the city can work together with the tenants to give them ample time to find housing, because that's what many of the residents said, is that you need time. And I wouldn't want to be in your situation that, you got 3 days and you got to exit. So I hope that the City of Revere and the Board of Health and everybody can help and support you in giving you the time that you need to find dignified, safe housing where you know you're going to be okay. So with this in mind, I would like to put in a motion to condemn the building.
Yeah, sorry, we're just going to talk here. The meeting's closed for now, but we will.
Okay, I definitely agree with her that from listening to the conversation tonight, it sounds like the residents are not in a safe situation. And they're at risk for what? They're at risk for much more danger happening.
And just from
by just being there. So I do also agree with the motion.
And just for our council here, just from a legal perspective, we as the Board of Health do have the legal right to condemn. Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify that before we do anything. So now that all the evidence has been presented and the hearing is closed, and given there are no more questions or discussion among members, I move to vote on the request by the city to issue a condemnation order for 364 Ocean Avenue. Will someone second the motion? I need another member to second the motion.
I will second the motion.
Okay. All right. So, and then can I take a roll call to vote? So Kathleen, again, can I just get your vote?
I vote for the proposal that you brought up to condemn the building.
Yep. And Viviana as well?
Yes.
Okay. And me as well. So the board approves the condemnation of 364 Ocean Avenue. So that's going to be it for this meeting, and thank you all for being here. And again, like I said, this doesn't feel good in any way, but the city and the Board of Health is here for you, and we'll work with you. Yeah. That I don't know.